Hey yarn lovers, it's Gary and I'm coming to you from my happy place, the Yarn Corner here on Vancouver Island in Canada. So welcome. Today is Saturday, April the 22nd, 2023, and this is video 184. How are you all doing? I hope you're well and staying safe. Now, I do apologize because I said I was going to do this video directly after the last one, but I got so involved with unpacking and building a storage unit because I did think ahead of the game, knowing that I would bring back yarn from my trip. I went to the United States and I needed somewhere to put the yarn. So I made sure that on my day off when I returned that I was going to build this storage unit. So I did that, and then it got really late, so I didn't have a chance to record this particular episode. And so here I am now. Many of you had so many questions about my trip and what it was that I packed, what I thought about that I could do with bringing back the yarn. Were there any custom costs for me as a Canadian going down to the States, buying all the yarn and then bringing it back in? So I'm going to devote this particular video to answer all those questions, and then some tips that I learned in my own experience, but also tips that came from all of you who were watching and commenting on what I should do, even before I left, on what to pack. So those great suggestions I want to share in amongst with all the people who may not have read those notes. So let's get cracking, shall we? And talk about these amazing tips. Now, I'm going to glance down because I do have some notes. And because we start the journey with always packing our bags, then also finding out through airlines what kind of services are provided with the airline that we've chosen for our ticket. So in combination of those two factors, I'm going to say that first of all, when you are traveling, look at your flight carrier and see whether they have any restrictions on the types of luggage, like the amount of luggage that you can check in, or if you've paid for that already on your ticket, or if that's something that you add on once you get into the at the counter at the airport that you pay for as you are kind of boarding and checking into your flight. So that's one thing to consider before even starting to think about what kind of luggage that you're going to bring. So in my case, I flew Air Canada to the United States. It was all carriers of Air Canada getting me there. And on the way home, it was Delta Air. So both of those air carriers were allowing me to have 2 check-on luggages, and they gave me the certain size of the bag that was allowed and also the weight for each of the bags. I opted to choose to pay for my luggage as I was checking in. So each of my luggages would be approximately around 30 to 40 Canadian dollars, and returning it would be in US currency. So I think the calculations you'd have to do yourself, but I think maybe if you're talking about 30 or 40 dollars US and you're converting it to Canadian currency, it's probably around $50, say, for example, ballparking figure. So yeah, those were the conditions of my luggage, and I was able to bring on one personal item like a laptop bag or a sort of a briefcase type bag, but then also allowing to have like a stroller, what they call is it hand luggage? It's called hand luggage, and it normally comes with, little rolly bag, or you could bring like a small duffel bag or a sports duffel bag. Those have size requirements as well as weight requirements. So finding out all of those nuances was helpful at the start of my packing experience. And then when I found out that I could have 2 bags, what I decided was I was going to pack a soft duffel bag that I could fold up and put it into my main hard shell suitcase. Pay the $40 to get the one luggage down to where I was going in Illinois. And then when I was buying all my stuff, that dedicated duffel bag was going to be for all of the yarn and supplies and all that sort of thing that I was going to then take out of my suitcase and pack that as my second one coming home. So yeah, that was the intention. And I have a clip here to show you what the sizes of my cases look like. Almost all unpacked, but I've got everything out of the case and the duffel bag. Wanted to showcase what I did with the duffel bag and how compressed it folded up. It's not as professionally folded as what it was once in the store when I first purchased it. And it is a 32-inch canvas bag that I purchased from Walmart. No affiliation whatsoever, just giving you an indication of where I got this one for 25 Canadian dollars. And so everything was out of it. I packed it in my check-on luggage, and as you can see, it fits in to take up probably a quarter. Had all this space here and all of the other half of the case for my personal belongings. I did get some great comments after the fact that I was considering and I looked at for vacuum sealed packs, where I would buy a kit, so to speak. They would give a certain amount of bags. Some of them are big, some of them are small. So in the kits, you can kind of like read through them. They're around $25, anywhere from that point upwards. And it comes with a little pump where it can suck all the air out. So getting that kit might be a way for me to think about if I was to buy a lot more yarn than I had bought, to compact it and squish it down. But for this purpose of this holiday, I knew that I only had a certain budget and I didn't want to bring too much home because, as you can tell, I have enough yarn. But good point, definitely, for people who are traveling and they want to purchase more, or they want to just travel more compact, that maybe they don't have a sizable duffel bag that will work for what they're thinking, and they have something that's smaller. They don't want to buy a larger carry case. So I think that all those suggestions are well and truly good options to think about before you go on your trip as well. Now, it does come with a pump, so you do need to think about the space that the pump will take up as well. And any of the bags that you don't use along the way, they will need to be packed back into the bag as well. So there is a sizable kind of consideration there on if you go that route, to think about space in your luggage too for those elements. Then it was the fun part of what projects to bring with me. I chose 4 projects. 3 of them went into my checked-in luggage, and 1 came with me on the plane on my carry-on. And the project that I wanted to focus on was a knitted project, and I had chosen wooden circular needles for the project. The needles themselves were 4-inch tips, and I thought about maybe there might have been a complication with metal needles because it was going to go through a scanner. And I'm pretty sure that if you were to pack in longer length needles that were metal based, they might be considered as something that could be harmful. So you might want to check in to see what kind of implements have those measurements and restrictions on them before traveling with your airline. So I was fine. They didn't confiscate my wooden needle tips or the circulars that I was using in the project. So I was quite fortunate to keep myself busy and work on this one particular shawl, which was awesome. I would suggest as well, if you're going to use a Notions pouch to bring along with you in your in your carry-on, is that look at maybe plastic darning needles or things that aren't too long and sharp, like scissors. They can be all packed into your checked-in bag. And that's how I handled it. I thought, well, I can always break yarn. I don't really need scissors. And my darning needle's plastic, so if I need to weave in any ends, then I would choose the plastic style darning needle. This is also true, I would assume, for crochet. So if you're looking at taking your crochet on board, then perhaps maybe look at seeing what restrictions there are on sizes for your hook. If they don't mind sort of you taking a metal hook, that would be okay. But I would be most safe in my own kind of like paranoia would be to take a wooden hook, not an expensive one, that if they did confiscate it, that I could easily replace it back when I was traveling, go to a craft store like Michael's and pick one up for inexpensive. For the next part of the journey, it's when you've purchased all the wonderful yarn and visited your friends and had such a great time. And in my case, I got so many delicious gifts and also yummy yarns that I had to put them away and pack them and get them all ready to come back home with me. So out came the duffel bag that you've seen earlier on in the video, and I packed in all my things. It was wonderful. It fit under the size requirement, and when I arrived at the airport, I paid for the extra bag. So it ended up being $40 US for the extra bag. I had the one already that I initially brought with me. So I had 2 bags and they both equaled $80 total together, 80 US to get the 2 bags home. And looking at the kind of pound of the yarn, I think it might have been around 20 to 23 pounds of yarn that I had purchased and was gifted to bring back. If I was to pack a box up with like around say 20 to 23 pounds and post it back to myself, I've seen figures running to 100 US to get that box home. So in this situation and looking at comparing the prices, the $40 bag that I had to pay was a lot cheaper. Even spending that $27 to purchase the duffel bag, together, those costs both are lower than the post. So I think in the end, I did the right thing by bringing the case home with me and not posting it back to myself. It might not be that way if I had purchased more, but what I had was ample and plenty enough for me. It'll last me for a very long time. Now that brings us to talk about Canadian customs and returning home with goods from America. And I often read these comments in the past few videos about whether I was taxed or if I had to pay duties on the goods that I had purchased and were bringing back over the border. So I was asked 2 questions by the Canadian official who was the customs officer, and those were, how long was I outside of the country for in the States, and how much were the value of the goods that I was bringing back in Canadian dollars. I was outside of the country for more than 48 hours, and there is a limit, I guess, on how much the values you can bring back for that time frame, and it was 800 Canadian dollars. Now, I didn't come anywhere close to that limit, and I was cleared from customs, and I did not pay for any extra taxes or duties on the items that I brought back. So I know that there is another value if you're there for a shorter time, like if you're away from Canada in the United States for a shorter amount of time, like say, for example, under 48 hours, your value is different. So you got to be careful when you are purchasing things that you look at what your limit is for how long you're outside of Canada within the United States. The other thing is, on the reverse side of that, if you're an American visiting Canada, you have something very similar as well to what we have. So if you're coming back across the border back home into the United States, the US official customs will ask you the same questions, and you'll have to check to see, I believe it's similar to Canadians, that if you're over 48 hours outside of in Canada and you're coming back home and you spent more than 48 hours, you get 800 as well. But these are things that I've just discovered myself by looking online, and I will link a couple of the source source websites that I found this information on. And because it's relative to now and it's good for now, like as of this date being 2023, later down the way, it might change. So there's something to be said about looking back and checking on those figures and the time restrictions and all that sort of thing for customs. But I'm happy to say I didn't have to pay for any extra customs because I fell underneath that threshold, and I have the yarn back home with me without having to ship it as well, which is delightful. I'm really excited about starting projects with the yarn, and I hope that this helped with some of the questions that were asked in the comments from the last 3 or 4 videos that I put out about traveling. And I enjoyed my trip so much. It's a lifetime of memories. I think I'm going to go back and visit my friends in the United States soon. I'm hoping as soon as I can get more time off and maybe some more funds, I'll use up some of this yarn as well, and then I'll be going back down to buy some more. So yeah, with that, I will catch you in the next video. Please stay well, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.